road for 8 years. In the Marine Corps, I became an adventure racer and then a triathlete, and after leaving the Marines, became a mountaineer. But I'm here tonight because I have something in common with everyone in this audience, and that something led me to PCA. Number one, I believe strongly in character development. Number two, I believe in the transformative power of sports as a means to build that character. And number three, and I think many in this room would agree with me, I believe that the coach is the single greatest influencer in that respect. So it's nice to be among friends. This is a new age, so I'm going to start with a video featuring Steve Young. He's a member of PCA's national board, which, by the way, is a very impressive group of former athletes and current athletes. We'll roll through the video. You know, I find that amazing what Steve said, but not so much surprising, that a Hall of Fame quarterback points to youth sports as his greatest influence. Because obviously the turn in the river had the ability to cause so much change in his life. I live in Steve's old hometown of Greenwich, Connecticut. I've coached youth sports now for 8 years. Ruben, when we did this, it was 7 years, but I started in August, so I'm now on the 8th. I've got 2 boys, and the agreement with my wife is that as long as I coached one boy, I had to coach both. So it's been 2 sports per semester per boy. So I must say that along the way I've encountered, you know, a huge spectrum of behavior among the athletes and the parents that I did not deem possible before getting into coaching. And the other thing that happened to me was I fell in love with coaching. And I set out to become a great coach, which is what led me to this organization, because its research-based toolkit had great appeal to me as kind of a statistics nerd and a trader. So I also, beyond the statistics and the research, which you'll hear tonight, I also look back on my own personal experience with coaches. And there's someone who stands out for anyone who wrote at Harvard University, and that is the winningest coach in NCAA history with a winning percentage of 800, and we'll talk about winning percentage later this evening, and that's Harry Parker. That's the man on the screen. I'm going to use the Sports Illustrated cover shot from 1965, and I'm going to put up a shot from 2005 when he won his last national championship before he passed away. You know, like anyone who wrote at Harvard, Harry was the single most influential coach, and I think many of us would say the single most influential human being in our lives. And the amazing thing is that even though he set a clear culture that is effort-based, which again we'll talk about tonight, Harry and I had fewer than 3 conversations over 4 years, which astonishes most people. And that communication gap in many of our judgments may have cost us the 1990 national championship, and it's something that sticks with all of us to this day because there were some basic improvements we needed to make to the team, and none of us had the guts to bring them up to our coach. So tonight, as you're listening to me, I've come here to listen to you because I now believe that to be a good coach is to be a good listener. So this is an interactive session, and let me start out with a question. And then I haven't quite figured out what that question is yet. I got my boys here laughing at me, but not playing Destiny. But I think I got 3 of them. I think they're all pretty good just to bridge to the double goal coach. So that's the basic introduction. Once then I have their attention, you know, I'll say that, so we've outlined the fact now we have 2 goals here. We want to teach life lessons, and we strive to win. And I don't want you to forget about the latter because I know your opinion in coming here. Many of you may believe that you're going to get a lot of the former, and you will. But the reason you will is that to achieve that hybrid goal, we have 3 principles. The elm tree of mastery, filling the emotional tank, and honoring the game. To lead off the elm tree of mastery, I'm going to revert to a video clip from the movie We Are Marshall, and I think that'll be a nice introduction to the balance that every coach, each one of us, strives to achieve. So I'll show the clip. You know, the nice thing about that clip is I found it fairly realistic in that the coach still did mention effort and clearly had a bond with his players. And yet, in the end, his goal was one thing, and that was winning. Now, is there anyone in the room who has heard the following question? How do I get my kids to the next level? I want to start a little, yes, in the red, ma'am.
Yes, I've heard that from a lot of kids. I mean, a lot of parents of kids that I've coached. What can I do to get my kid to the next level? Sure.
And does that fervency increase as the kids get older, or do parents eventually find some balance and realize that their athlete may not be a Division I competitor? Because I think it may be different in every sport.
Yeah, I coached high school first. Right out of college, I coached I had coached college level for a year, then high school for a year. The high school parents were so focused on how do I get my kid to college? How do I get him a scholarship? What can I do? Then I went down to coaching youth, thinking that was going to end, and it was going to be all about development, and the parents were even worse at the younger ages. What do I do? What club should I join? Should they play all year round? Should they drop every other sport? How can I? And I was like, whoa, your kid's 10.
So as a coach, did you feel that put pressure on you?
Sure, absolutely.
So is it fair to say then, once you reach the college ranks, as the coach here depicted as a collegiate NCAA Division I coach, that winning becomes an overrider for the coach?
Sure.
Anyone else in the audience explain why that may be, that as you rise up in the ranks, winning may become an overriding factor? Yes.
Well, I think in part because your job security depends on it. You know, coaches get hired and they get fired, and it seems to me at the higher levels that the number one reason they get fired is because they don't win enough.
Sure, that's what they get paid for. I mean, they're judged, as he says, in the end, and I think it's a very fair statement he makes, he is judged by his win-loss record. But among the athletes themselves, have you ever seen a case where a kid will choose to remain on the bench because he wants the victory more than playing time? I'd like you all to think now about the athletes. What is their perspective on winning in general? The man with the elk behind him.
That's you, Chad. There's an elk behind you, Chad.
So as a coach, how do you balance the needs of your athletes to win with playing time and self-improvement?
Well, it's kind of you got to set that culture first, kind of what I do with my player roles. Not everyone's going to be scoring 20 points a night. I coach basketball. Someone's got to be the guy that hustles on the defense, that gets all the rebounds. And you can get them to buy into that culture of their role, and everyone has a part in the winning process. And that not everyone is going to play 32 minutes a night in high school basketball. It's 8 minutes a quarter. Just get them to buy into that culture of the team first mentality.
Okay, that's excellent. So what I hear people saying is that it's about balance. And I find the next slide to be really interesting because it comes from hard research on Joan Duda's research on this during the 2000 Sydney Olympic Games. And her basic task was to figure out which Olympic athletes earned more medals. Was it those who focused on the scoreboard and winning, or those who focused on mastering their sport and getting better? Anyone have any inclination? Well, it turns out, and I'm sure the crowd then will pick number 2, as it says in the slide. But it turns out that it should be no surprise that good athletes do both. And one of the goals here tonight is to try to figure out how to achieve that balance between mastery and winning. I'm going to introduce another clip, which I think articulates it fairly well. This is from the same movie, We Are Marshall, with Matthew McConaughey. We'll go through that slide. So the ELM Tree of Mastery it's an acronym. The ELM acronym stands for effort, learning, and mistakes are okay. Again, effort, learning, and mistakes are okay. For the scoreboard definition, I'm going to flick up the other slide here. actually, I don't have a way to advance. Do those words pop up, or does the whole slide appear?
For the ELM?
Yeah, correct.
If I'm not mistaken, the way it's set up is that it brings up scoreboard. It brings up results, and then it brings up effort, and then it brings up comparison with other. I think it's set up to go that way, but with PowerPoint you can change those animations so that they come up any way you want. So they come up all at once, or one side comes up first, the second side. But if I'm not mistaken, I think our standard PowerPoint is what I described.
Got it.
Does that make sense, Owen?
It does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when our kids have played a game and they come home to their parents who may not have attended, or they even walk into an ice cream shop as a reward for the game, what's the first question they generally get?
Did you win?
Did you win? Did you win? And ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to override that culture tonight. But we are going to talk about comparing and contrasting what the different definitions are. And then I'll run through the definition. When we talk about effort, what would the scoreboard version of effort be?
Did you score the goal?
I would say it's what that first coach said, just win, baby.
Yeah.
It's effort's fine, but did you win? It's secondary.
Yeah. And Ruben, I think you're basically saying it's results. I mean, in the end, it's the scoreboard.
Yeah.
In terms
I think too, if you put your best effort and you don't win, that's not acceptable.
Interesting. Yeah. Anyone else in the audience agree with that? Especially you youth sports coaches. Shouldn't it be that a game well played is a superior outcome than a poorly played game with a loss?
It is for us, and I think it is for Kelly, but for that scoreboard-oriented focused coach, or the one you showed us, it wasn't enough.
Yeah. Okay. The second letter in ELM, I got to introduce that better, but the second principle is learning. That is, even in the course of a game, the kids are out there to learn their sport. What is the version or the translation for a scoreboard focused coach? Anyone have any ideas?
I would say it's winning again. It's not about learning. It's about the result, and that, so what if you learned and improved? We didn't win.
Yeah. So I heard you say improvement. That's right. I think the basic the difference is that on the one hand, you're seeking to improve. There's going to be another game, certainly, and the goal is mastery, not the present tense. And the others might be a comparison with others. How about mistakes, finally? I mean, certainly every coach allows for mistakes. Everyone here, I mean, many of us are former athletes. What tends to happen, though, as we become coaches? Has anyone here had the experience where suddenly, though all of us have made many mistakes in our athletic careers, mistakes are not okay? Yeah, I think it's
Oh, and I've heard coaches, use language like, "You have to make that play." We have to have that play. In other words, there is no room for error in that messaging, or room for mistakes when we take that approach.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I think it's almost the difference of decision making. That is, coaching an athlete to make sound decisions in the game. And then the tactics or the techniques, which can go one way or another. That is, you miss a shot, you're told to shoot high right on a certain goalie, and it just comes out and goes bottom left. I want to put up another research, though, to put a fine point on the mastery definition. And I forget who this research is from, but I'll get it. I know he's a Stanford professor, if I'm right. But there's research from him and others which shows the power of the mastery focus on the scoreboard in the end. Anyone have any inkling as to why the mastery focus might actually lead to more wins over time?
I'm just thinking that it gets the head trash out of the way. If you're focusing on what you're doing and you're not worrying about everybody else, it kind of gets that crazy head game of doubting yourself and insecurity out of the way, because you're just doing your job.
Yeah,
and you're measuring against yourself.
Sports, even at young ages, are pressure packed. And we also know from science that when you're under pressure, your decision making starts to erode. So one basic goal might be to try to alleviate as much stress as you can for the athletes. And I think, Kelly, as you indicated, give them a sense of control. That is, that they are the masters of their own destiny that day. And the pressure then is off in terms of beating someone else, but it's, number one, focused on a very basic principle, which is effort, which is going to give you long-term wins. Second, improving even in the course of your game so that they'll be open to feedback, which we'll talk about. And then the third, eventually, is that mistakes are okay. Oh, I forgot about the mistakes flushing. That goes in here, I'm sure. So
it goes
somewhere. It goes in somewhere.
Yeah, it can go usually after
okay,
that.
So during a practice, we can all figure out, I think, ways to correct mistakes. It's kind of easy. Let's talk about ways that you can correct a mistake during a game and ways you shouldn't correct a mistake. Any ideas? Chad,
well,
I
I'd
see
say
you
you
leaning
shouldn't.
forward.
I would say you shouldn't yell at a player who makes, yell at them and make them feel even worse. They probably already feel bad that they didn't make the play. So I would say don't do it that way by yelling and screaming at them.
And is that just because you're a sensitive soul, Ruben, or is there an outcome based to that as well that you're looking for? Meaning,
I am very sensitive, but no, it's not because I'm so sensitive. It's because I think that produces a better result. I think it, or does not produce a good result. If you want them to learn and hear the message, I think we don't hear the message and get as much from it when it's delivered in an angry, belittling, loud way.
Yes. Yep. Anyone else?
There's in Colorado, like with kids, it's kind of the nonverbals. Some kids might throw their hands up in the air, or just kind of a disgusting manner. For basketball, now actually it's the National Federation High School, they'll start to tee kids up for kind of negative flushes, I guess you could call them. So I've seen that before.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the fact is that in the heat of battle, it's difficult enough to communicate. And if you're going to criticize and intensely criticize someone for a mistake, you have to be very careful, because that person may shut off for as little as 15 seconds or as long as several minutes before they can get their decision-making process back. And they may be so affected in trying to figure out the interpretation of your comments that may affect their decision cycle, and they may perform even worse. So in the heat of the game, PCA has something really neat, which is called the mistake ritual. That is some form of symbol that you can quickly communicate as a coach to the athlete when they make a mistake, indicating that mistakes are okay. Now, many of us coach, some of us coach indoors, some of us are 100 yards away from players. Can anyone come up with a universal idea as to how you can quickly communicate to that athlete that what he or she did was fine, they're still in the game, and keep doing what you're doing?
I think just a thumbs up sometimes. Like, keep going. You're doing good. Keep it up.
So a thumbs up after a mistake, that's a pretty powerful message. Yeah, I mean, all of us have to remember that not only the parents, but the athlete's eyes are on you all the time, but especially in pressure-packed situations, and especially when your athletes screw up. And they're going to screw up. When the athlete scores a goal, they're not looking at you, they're looking at the celebration. When something happens and they don't execute a really obvious play, they often look to the coach. So the coach has a real chance there to reinforce this principle. And yeah, Kelly, as you said, either a thumbs up. I've also heard from this group, some people use a flush, as Chad mentioned, which is just a toilet symbol, which is flushing the mistake out of the mind. and maybe wiping your brow, that is a no sweat symbol. But that communication is so key. You drill right into the athlete that they're doing the right thing, and they just need to not be so outcome based. So let's use an example here, a scenario. This is the Jesse. I'm not going to be able to find it here, but basically every time Jesse goes down the field and misses, he sulks, and as a result, he never gets back on defense. What's the basic problem here, and how can we as coaches correct it?
Well, I would say the basic problem is that he's not playing hard for his team, you know, and he doesn't give unconditional effort. It's tied to whether he's making baskets or not, and that doesn't sound like a winning formula for me. And certainly as a coach, I would find that frustrating if a player, because of one play, failure on one play, it impacted the next several plays.
Yeah, it's what we said earlier. I mean, we're not so concerned with the goal. I mean, you're still trying to teach Jesse the fundamental principle of getting back on defense, because that may affect the goal balance much more than an errant shot. So let's use an example of soccer. If he's playing right wing and you're the coach, as I said, 75 or 100 yards away, and this happened to you, Kelly, can you give me an example of something you can do with Jesse or an athlete like this during the game? And then what might you say at halftime, and then after the game's over, the next practice? And really, we're talking about a philosophy of communication when emotions are high.
I might try, even if he's far away, I might try the first time that I see him sulking, you know, really point out something he did well. You know, way to hustle, way to stay on your man, whatever it was, some skill that he did well. But if he doesn't respond to that, and shortly after, the next time he makes a mistake, I would take him out. Not because of the mistake, but I'd take him out because he's hurting the team by not being in the game, having his head in the game on the next play. And just to let you know, you have 1 minute to wrap up, Owen. You got 1 minute left.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we're on the last.
Okay, that's fine. Just to let you know.
Excellent. Yeah, what you're really trying to do, I think, is empower your athletes. Or let me rephrase that. PCA's basic conclusion is that to fully empower your athletes after a mistake, just having this mistake ritual that the kids are all aware of reduces the pressure and then boosts that feeling of control. So there's lower anxiety, there's more confidence, and then in the end, that probably will show up in the scoreboard. But let's forget the present game and roll these athletes forward 3 or 4 years. What's the real power of the mastery focus versus the scoreboard focus?
I think it applies outside of sports and in life in general. I think that's the power. I think that these are skills and attitudes and a mindset that will serve a child well, you know, way beyond the playing field.
Yeah, I think, I shouldn't say I think, but, you know, part of Jim Thompson's motivation for starting PCA was that youth athletes were dropping out of sports at young ages because they lacked the confidence and the love of these sports. And we know, again, from research that if you can create an environment where confidence is up, they're working on, with a growth mindset, on improving their game so that they know that years or 3 years or 5 years from now they're going to be taller, stronger, and if they keep improving, they can go to a higher and higher level as athletes. Then you're going to get children who stick to tasks longer, not only sports, but in real life. Okay, that was winged, but thank you.
Nicely done. Even coming off a vacation. Nice job.
Yeah, well.
All right, Ruben, would you like to start, or would you like me to start off?
I'd love to start.
Yeah,
and I really enjoyed it. I like what you're doing. I'm very engaged as a participant. I was looking at our notes from your practice session, and one of the things I like is that a couple of things that worked really well for you last time, you did them again. You stuck with it, and you didn't feel like, okay, I did this last time, so I got to do it differently next time. You know, I laughed both times. I laughed when you said by agreement with my wife. I laughed last week, and I laughed again. And I even looked back at my notes to see if that was something new, but I had written it down last time too. You know, so I think your opening is very smooth and powerful. I like you refined how you're using the Harry Parker story, because we talked about, you know, how would that be most effective, and I just really love what you did with it today. I think you're constantly interacting with us and having us interact with you, and I think in a live situation you have us interacting with each other. You're constantly asking us questions. Just so many good things there, Owen. So well done and congratulations.
All right, thanks, Ruben. Chad, did you want to give some feedback at all to Owen?
Yeah, like you can definitely tell just from the tone of your voice, and even though like you're sitting down, there's just kind of like the body language, there's kind of an excitement, like a passion there just for what the PCA believes, and that's what I kind of really noticed. You kind of give off a real good positive vibe. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I said the same thing. I think you're an intense guy, and that comes across in a positive way. You know, you're intense about what you're talking about. You're passionate about it. You have very strong statements, which are very good. I think just some of the notes I wrote down were just statements that stuck with me about, you know, here's 3 goals: character development, transformation, and the coach is a great influence. Like, those are quick, easy things that people can wrap their mind around. But being an intense guy, you also smile and you have a light side and you're approachable. Because if I heard I was going to hear from this guy that was seeing the races that you've run and going to Harvard and rode, like, I'd be like, whoa, this dude is like way out of my league. But you're very conversational and you're very approachable, which I think is a real bonus for you. I loved the conversational and the back and forth. My only suggestion would be just to watch, I call them drop-off questions, where you ask a question and you sort of leave the end of it open, and people aren't really sure, am I supposed to answer? Is this rhetorical? Do you want me to answer? Are you going to call on somebody? Just to make it really specific, because you don't want to be stuck with this fantastic question and then hear crickets, because people aren't really sure. So I always try to just be as specific as possible. I'd like you to, whether it's, let me get a show of hands, or can I get a volunteer to explain to me, or turn to a partner and share this with them, or let me give you a minute to think about this before I ask for somebody to give me an answer out loud. Just the more specific you can be, the better you don't feel like you're hanging on waiting for somebody to bail you out of a question. The only other thing that I have loads of notes. I think a lot of them are just ideas I've stolen instead of critique of your workshop. I think that you did a great job with the Harry Parker example. I think is fantastic. I love the fact when people bring up great coaching stories and they've actually played for that coach, it's even more powerful. So I think that's awesome. I would personally like to hear a little more of you, a little more of your story, and I'm sure throughout an entire workshop you would. But I just love to connect with a trainer personally. What has been your experience as an athlete, or what you talked a little bit about as a coach? But I would like to hear a little bit more of your personal experience in there. I just love the way you said too, the balance, just the mistake in winning, and that it isn't a balance. A lot of us, kind of downplay the part that there is a good balance there. And I like the way you gave the first Marshall coach credit for doing something well, because he is what a lot of us are like. He went a little too far with the winning end, but I think you did a great job with that. Something to share that I think this is really cool. In terms of mistake ritual, I just actually learned this from a former student of mine who writes a blog now. She's actually training for the Olympics. And she was talking about mistakes and how she views mistakes. And she's a decathlete training for the next Olympics. And she said her coach says to her, look at a mistake, is it a threat or a challenge? And I just read that today, and that kind of stuck with me. Like, to teach your athletes, the mistake ritual is great to flush it, but just to change your mind in that moment to, is that mistake a threat to your next move, or is it a challenge that you're going to learn from? And I just wanted to share that because I just read that this afternoon. I thought that was a really cool way to put it. The only other thing, I think, I just changed up the pace a little bit. Would be the only wish that I would have, that because you are very intense and you are very focused on the research, maybe like at a part of it, just lighten it up a little bit. some kind of a funny story or something like that to just kind of lighten the mood, because it is 90 minutes, and 90 minutes of intensity can get a little heavy sometimes. So just lighten it up a little bit. But that's what I have. I thought you did a great job.
I have plenty of crazy kid stories in my quiver.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure, and I know this is only 20 minutes, but as I said, that's just my wish.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much for the feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Chad, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I've kind of done, I tried different things. I never knew how you got the other computer in your screen. I couldn't ever get that, so I just borrowed my school computer. So I'll go through the slide here, like as I would do it, but you guys can't see it.
That's fine.
And then I have my intro, and I was just gonna then skip right to principal. I kind of changed it here at the last minute just because of some stuff I saw on the TV, actually on Sports Center. So I'm also going to do the Elm Tree Principal one tonight as well. So I try to find kind of some current events that I can relate in the presentation.
That's great.
So let's start with my intro. Again, thank you guys for having me here this evening. My name is Chad Natrieb. I'm from the Colorado area, Estes Park, a small town in the mountains. I've pretty much grown up in sports, competitive my whole life. My dad was a high school athletic director for 17 years. My mother was a high school counselor for 38 years. I've played some form of sports for 24 years now, all the way from like the middle school level, kind of up through the college level. I've always been involved there. I've got cousins that are Division I athletes, a volleyball player that played at Georgia Tech, a cousin that wrestled at Indiana University, so that high-level competitiveness is in my blood. I've also been a teacher now. This is my 10th year teaching physical education. I've got the greatest job in the world, middle school, 6th through 8th graders, and I've been 13 years as some type of a coach. I've coached co-ed, intramural teams. I've also been the past 7 years varsity boys basketball coach. So I feel like I have a lot of experience coaching, but also being around competitive athletics as well. I'm here tonight to share with you and present a workshop with the PCA principles of better athletes, better people. But I'm also here to share with you guys. We are here to share. I like stealing ideas, so as we interact here throughout the night, you guys will say something. I'm going to steal it as a coach and even as a teacher. I like this is the teacher in me, always learning, a lifelong learner as a PCA, as you'll hear tonight as well. So I'm here to present a workshop, but also share. We are here to share the principles of the PCA. I want to make sure everyone has the book, The Power of Double Goal Coaching. I'm going to reference this a couple times here tonight, give you some page numbers that you can just flip to really quickly just to give you a quick reference for what I'm talking about. Before we get started, usually PE teacher in me, I'll say we've kind of maybe sat through my introduction. I want to do a quick brain break is what we call it. And you guys can do it as you're sitting right here. With your right hand, trace a circle like a face clock, so you're going from 1 to all the way back around to midnight, 1 to 12. So go clockwise with your right hand, and also with your right foot, I want you to draw the number 6 at the same time. Do those simultaneously. See if you can do that. I want to do it as well. What does your foot tend to do?
Follows my hand. My foot wants to do what my hand's doing.
Yeah. So let's just kind of get them going here, breaking up before I get into the first principle. Just a quick little brain break, but you get them interaction. First one we're going to get the principle we talk about is the elm tree. And I've got this slide here pulled up. If you look on the PowerPoint here, it says we have a scoreboard definition and a mastery definition. According to the Positive Coaching Alliance here, we believe that you have the scoreboard definition that is more kind of results-oriented. And what would be an example of results? Can you guys name a result on a scoreboard? What does that mean to you?
Who has the most points at the end of the game?
Yep. Typically, everyone in the audience can see up there who's got the most points, no matter if you're indoors or outdoors type sports. We have what we call the mastery definition that focuses more kind of on the effort. And if you look in your book here on page 20, what is it, 25. Just gives you a quick reference of what we refer to as results versus effort outcomes. You can see right there we have baseball, softball, basketball, lacrosse, soccer, there's football. In a small audience, what I want them to do is each coach give me an example of a effort versus outcome goal in a small audience. Here's what I would have them do. So I'm kind of assuming it's a small audience. And if there's a larger audience, this is why I reference to this book. They can see there the effort versus the outcome goal. Go through theirs, talk them through that for a few minutes right there. Also, according to the mastery definition here, you have what we call the comparison with others. That's under the scoreboard definition there. Are you faster or slower? Are you stronger or weaker than your opponent? The athletes are just, and kids do it. I know in my PE classes they're always comparing. Even when you tell kids don't keep score, what always happens?
They keep score.
They keep score. They're pretty smart. Kids are intelligent. They know. They want to keep score. So the scoreboard definition, you're comparing yourself with others. Under the mastery definition, you focus more on the learning part. What did you learn from that experience? It can be positive or negative sometimes, learning experiences for students or athletes as well. Under the scoreboard definition, we talk about mistakes. They're not okay. Some of you probably have personal examples or maybe have seen them as well, where a coach, what does he do when you make a mistake on a team? He just screams and yells at you or kind of maybe belittles you. Maybe your teammates might do the same thing to you as well. So in that scoreboard definition, mistakes are not okay. In the mastery definition, according to the PCA, mistakes are okay. And I want you to raise your hand. How many of you, when you rode your bicycle for the very first time, how many of you made mistakes and fell at least 20 times? Probably everyone. So you've got to learn. You're learning from those mistakes. You learn how to maybe counterbalance all those mistakes. They brought you to the point where you're now riding a bicycle or maybe a unicycle or something like that you might have. In the next slide here, Robert Roser from Stanford University, we give you guys kind of a tool to use in order to remember this, just a memory tool to remember that effort, learning, and mistakes are okay. We call it the Elm Tree of Mastery, and according to Robert Roser at Stanford University and research by others, it shows that as anxiety in that athlete goes down, self-confidence in athletes might tend to do what, audience? What's your guess? Up, exactly. So right there, that transition there, I push the up. Keep going, or
No, you're
does
fine.
Ruben have something? So just what we said right there. So the anxiety goes down, and the self-confidence tends to go up in athletes. In this mastery definition we talked about here, when anxiety goes down there and self-confidence goes up, what does this give the athletes a sense of? Who can raise your hand and tell me what sense do the athletes get?
Confident.
Confidence. What else might they get?
I was going to say confidence also.
So I just see if there might be any other kind of acronyms or something out there for confidence that people could possibly come up with.
Security? Sense of security or comfort? Comfort? How about comfort?
Comfort. I like that word. Comfort's another good word. All these, when you're feeling secure, when you're feeling comfortable, when you're feeling in control, you have what the PCA calls that mastery. You've attained that mastery skill of that, and then as I push there, as the control pops up. When you have that control, when you have that confidence, that security, what kind of more of an outcome base here? What tends to happen? What do you tend to do as that player for that coach or for your teammates?
Maybe you play aggressively, freely.
Nice. Owen, what would you say?
I mean, the greatest athletes always seem to be the most self-confident athletes. And I think you just flat out play better.
Yeah. Kelly, what would you say?
I agree. I think they have a go-get-'em attitude. They're ready to go out and try anything and just take risks and have fun out there.
So I think you guys just said taking risks right there. They're go-getters. They're confident. As a PCA here, they're going to work harder and they're going to stick to that task, that sport, that skill longer. There's a scenario right here on the screen, but this is where I kind of changed my presentation to give more of a current event scenario. And I just noticed it was posted on the PCA website. If you guys saw on ESPN's OTL Outside the Lines, there's an issue right now happening with it's a female Little League softball team, basically kind of giving up a game, kind of playing bad for certain purposes, but also James Harrison made a post about trophies, and he gave back his kids 2 participation trophies at a fellow NFL football player's team camp. So that'd be my scenario right here. What would, not necessarily possibly a scenario, but if you were given 2 participation trophies like James Harrison, would you give them back? Wouldn't you give them back? Why or why not? And what I would do here is have you in the audience get into groups of those in a different sport, kind of 3 or 4, no more than 4, and just a roundtable discussion, why or why not would you give those trophies back? And maybe ask you guys right here, what would you have? So I'm just kind of seeking advice from you guys for the whole. I read Jim Thompson's thing on it about giving about participation trophies. So share with me, what are you guys' ideas of giving back a participation trophy?
Chad, I'll start. You hear me okay, Chad?
Yes.
So I did a workshop last night, and it was a parent workshop, and this very thing came up. One of the parents brought it up, the example, James Harrison, so I think it's great that you're bringing this in. I think that where I tried to take the conversation was that I don't think the issue is trophy or no trophy. The fact of the matter is that we recognize accomplishment in many ways, forms that accomplishment can take, and we recognize great effort, and we recognize effort in general, whether we give a trophy or not. And so the point I tried to make was that at PCA, we're fine with trophies, and recognition if it's meaningful. And a kid that starts a season and completes a season, they have accomplished something. There is an accomplishment there that I think Harrison is overlooking. Some kids start and don't finish. Now, does it rise to the level that they should receive a trophy? I just don't think that's that significant. I think that kids should feel good when they try hard and when they finish something that they started.
Kelly, what are your thoughts on that?
This kind of hit a little bit of a nerve because my daughters are swimmers, and this summer my daughter swam in a swim meet, and she was the 3rd heat to go, and there was no one else in her heat. It was just her by herself in lane 4 because she was like the last swimmer. And she came out of the pool, she's 8 years old, with a heat winner ribbon. And she was the only one. Nobody swam against her. And my husband was like, why would they give you a heat winner? There was no competition. And so, right on the spot as a parent, our first thought was, this is ridiculous. She didn't earn that. But, I took it around and said, what was your time? Did you swim better? Your flip turn was great, so you deserve that ribbon because, not necessarily because you won the heat, but she ended up doing her best time in that event, so it was all right. But I can totally see where, as a parent, he would say, wait a minute, you didn't earn that trophy. And, had that not happened to me this summer, I probably would have been like, oh, he's obnoxious as a parent. Let the kid have it. But as that, I was like, I don't want my kid to think she earned it when she didn't really do anything to earn the heat ribbon winner.
Owen, do you have any personal kid stories in your repertoire?
Well, I think, this is a really cool example. Certainly people will be talking. I think it may be a parenting example, or it's middle ground, and I think it may be dangerous ground. But that's my only comment, because as Ruben and Kelly articulated, this thing could go both ways. I mean, I like both your comments actually, to how to pull PCA into these with short stories. But I think this is a great example of something that is super intriguing. It's in the news and it sparks conversation. I just wrote down that this was terrific because you can bridge from this to wherever, whatever principle you want now. Anyway.
So I want to add to that, because I agree that what Owen says. Chad, if you bring this up, you want to have a plan for where you'd like to see it go and where you'd like to direct it, and what closure or takeaways you want to come out of this discussion. I mean, it's great to have discussion. It's even better to have discussion with a purpose or a goal in mind. And so, again, going back to what I remember about Harrison's comments, so thank you for all sharing your opinions. I want to tell you two things that PCA feels about this current event. One is we're not big fans of participation trophies. We don't see a lot of point in a participation trophy. Secondly, though, we weren't crazy about the way Harrison discounted his kid's effort. He said, sometimes you try hard and it just isn't enough. And that's true. It's not enough to get you the win. But what more can we ask of a child than to give 100% effort, to give a great effort? What more can a child possibly give in a situation? And so we're a little concerned about how Harrison did not recognize the value in his kids trying hard. So there you go, Chad. That would be an example of something that you could have. You used your quiver, the quiver analogy. That's in your quiver, so that if the group doesn't bring closure to it and take away points to it, that you have a way of closing it and making the conversation meaningful.
Right. So yeah, thank you, Ruben, Owen, and Kelly. Thank you for sharing that. There's really no right or wrong answer there. It's what I like is that it's in the dialogue. You see it it's on Sports Center. It's on Outside the Lines. The conversation is out there, and PCA is getting out there when we have Jim Thompson, our president and CEO, on television talking about that. So thank you guys for sharing your ideas there with that. And then we could go on and on for this topic here with that. So that's kind of the scenario right there. The last part there with the mistakes are okay in our Elm Tree, our effort, learning, and mistakes are okay. Each coach and player comes up with some type of ritual, usually like a nonverbal, to let the player know, maybe let the parents know, the fans know that, yes, there was a mistake made, but you're not going to dwell on it. You're going to get rid of it as quickly as you can. At the PCA, we have what we call the flush ritual, just like you're flushing a toilet. I've seen one. I just went to a conference type thing this summer. There's a gentleman he talks about on his collar. I believe he's a football coach. Pops his collar, or your teammate will come up to you and pop your collar. The meaning behind that is you pop right back up. Say in football you fell down, you missed a tackle, you're on the ground. Teammate comes over and pops your collar. I kind of think that's kind of cool, especially kind of with maybe this generation of kids, hip-hop-y type stuff. They'll pop their collar. I don't look as cool doing it as they do probably, but that's one example that I've seen. Does anyone in our audience have some examples of some mistake rituals that you currently use that are successful, that you have seen other people use that are successful?
I learned from another coach. She'd put her hand out like this, and then she'd flip it over. And as she did that, as she flipped it over, she'd say, "Turn the page."
Nice. That's a good one. Thanks, Ruben.
Leave behind the last play. Let's get on to the next play. Turn the page.
For me, as you see the power of peer pressure rise as the kids get older, sometimes you can turn to the bench and explain to your bench why you liked what just happened. And as Johnny starts to come off the ice or the pool or the field, you can have some of your bench players go over and reinforce the fact that athlete did the right thing. He just missed the shot, but he's got to continue to take that shot because he's the only lefty we have. And I found that can be sneakily effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Owen. Thank you for Ruben. So what we have right here, we're just giving you guys our first principle here, the Elm Tree of Mastery. It's just a memory tool. Effort, learning, and mistakes are okay that you can use with your team to help them be successful on the scoreboard. It's a different definition of what we call a winner. We're not here to get rid of the winning. We believe competition at the PCA is a good thing. You can learn a lot through winning and losing in life and on the court or off the court. So that's our first principle there, the Elm Tree of Mastery. And then we'll move on to the second principle, principle number 2. And I'm done. Thanks.
All right. Nice job, Chad. Thanks. All right. Ruben or Owen, would you like to start us off, or Alonzo? Or I can start us off?
I can start off as the rookie.
Sure, go ahead.
I really like I guess a speaker might call it cadence, meaning, like when I tripped up, it seemed much more obvious. And Chad, I like your delivery style in that it's upbeat and it's steady. But if you need to find your ground through the slideshow, you can do it really easily and it feels seamless, not awkward. I like the introduction with your athletic background because I think it centers everyone. I'm sure everyone will say that, but you have a lot of credibility. And then I thought you built that credibility throughout the presentation by kind of mixing questions. You certainly seemed open to input. And then you had, I think, I said sneaky earlier, but sneaky in a good way, a sneaky way of putting your own stamp of approval on the PCA, which I thought was effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Ruben?
Yeah, I liked what I saw there, and I agree with the great insightful feedback that Owen made. I thought your opening was effective. I like the fact that you worked in the 2 housekeeping things, setting the tone for an interactive workshop and positioning the book and making people aware of the book as a resource, not only but moving forward. I like the fact that you referred back to the book when you got to the Elm principle, Chad. And I like the fact that you identified a current event that you knew people would have opinions on, and that could really create some interesting interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep, I agree. I think you're very comfortable to listen to, and you have a very easy tone to your voice. So you're definitely the authority based on your background, but you're willing to hear from us too. And just by saying, I like to steal your ideas, I think it's the teacher in you that you feel very comfortable asking questions of the audience, and you fielded answers very well too. You didn't. I think you seem like a very even keel guy that wouldn't get rattled easily, and I think it showed. I mean, because there's times when you might get rattled, so I thought you did. Being with middle schoolers all day long, I think you probably have that one covered. I love the brain break idea. I think it's just good to get kind of everybody relaxed. One of the things I find a lot at workshops is at 7 o'clock at night after a long day, sometimes it takes the audience members a good 20 minutes just to stop thinking about their day and actually focus in on what you're saying. So I think something like that, like a silly brain break, make them laugh, take a deep breath, whatever it is, I think that's a really great thing to do, to just get everybody like, whew, okay, your day's over, now let's focus on what we're talking about. So I thought that was great. You talked very clearly about Elm Tree, and I have never seen anybody like open up the book right away for effort and go into effort goals and outcome goals. I thought that was fantastic. I would really have loved to hear more about how you would explain it, but I think that's a great thing to do right off the bat, because that's something I love to do, and I talk to them about the effort goals, but I use it more at the end of Elm Tree as a tool, and I kind of like it where you put it like smack in the beginning. Here's the difference. So I would have liked to hear a little bit more about how you would have differentiated, or would you have gotten ideas out of the audience, or what do you notice is the difference? That type of a conversation, which that's just a suggestion. The one thing, and Ruben actually brought this up at one of the workshops this week, a lot of times we say the Elm Tree or the scoreboard definition or the mastery definition, and we don't specifically say what is it a definition of. So it's the scoreboard definition of success or the mastery definition of success. And I think it's important just to really clarify what we're talking about. It's not just the mastery definition of life, it's the mastery definition of how do we define success, how do we define winning. So I thought I put that down, and if Ruben didn't say it, I was going to mention that because I thought that was good.
Okay. Thank you.
I actually wrote down a critique in the beginning, but you changed it. the very beginning, you kept saying you as coaches, I'm here to help you and you guys, and the Elm Tree is going to help you. And I wrote down, sometimes you connect more with an audience when you're on the same page. Like these principles help us as coaches because you're a coach too. But by the end, I noticed you changed it to we. So, throughout those 20 minutes, you changed from like, you coaches, we're going to help you, to this is something that we can use as coaches to help us. So I thought that was kind of neat the way that happened. And just the grouping and the current event example, I think that's awesome. And I totally agree with Ruben's statement with having a definite goal in mind, because there will be coaches that will go on and rant and have their opinion and debate and literally monopolize your workshop. So you have to, especially when it's a heated topic like that, it is very important to have something, in mind about where you want it to go. So I thought that was great. One thing, I didn't share this when you asked, but I just had a coach this weekend, and I love this. She's a very huge PCA fan. Her school's been a PCA partner for years and years. And she said at my school, and I had the athletes there too, and they showed it. They do knuckles. You know how everybody's like fist pumps? They call it knucks. And when they do knuckles, it's the requirement when somebody makes a mistake, they have to get 3 knuckles from 3 girls. It was a basketball team. And the knuckles are to fill the person's tank. So you've got to, as soon as you hit knuckles with a person, that's electricity going from this player to this player, and they go like this, and they go, phew. And it's so cool to watch the athletes do it, and they literally fill each other up because that person just lost a little bit of their tank because they made a mistake. So they've got to get filled up by 3 other players. And I thought that was a really cool combination of mistake ritual and filling the emotional tanks. So I told the coach this weekend I was going to steal that and share that with anybody I talked to. So there it is. But I thought you did a fantastic job. Both of you, I really enjoyed your different styles, but you both definitely know your content well. And I thought it was great.
Thank you.
Well, Kelly, I was thinking as Chad was nearing the end how both Chad and Owen covered the same principle, and they both hit the key points, and they did it in very different ways, and very different and acceptable ways, because they got the key messaging through. So it was nice to see that. Same principle, 2 very different approaches to how they're going to cover it.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think we can say with confidence here, I think you guys both know what you're doing, and we're really excited to get you out there and just to practice this. And I see Ruben shaking his head, so I'm sure he agrees with me. What we're going to be doing from this point on is we would consider you an associate trainer, which would mean that you would get a list each week on Monday. Sonia, our trainer manager, will send out a list of workshops in your area that you might be available to help co-present. And so we would match you up with a certified trainer in your local area, and you would get together with that person, and you would choose one of the principles to co-present at a live workshop with coaches. And that would be the next step for both of you, and I'm excited to get you guys both out there with somebody doing that. And then from there, if the certified trainer feels that you did a great job and you're ready to go, then the next step would be full-on certification, where you could go out and do this solo. So that's the next step. I'll send an email to you with some details in it. But I just want to thank both of you guys for your commitment to this. It's been great working with both of you.
Thank you guys for the opportunity. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Kelly, did you during your journey out to California, did you address that issue of having people put their data right up front, and then folks receiving newsletters weekly?
I did, and
I just bring it up because again, when I look at this, I've got I access the slideshow toward the end of Chad's talk, and like those 5 or 6. I wouldn't like that if I were a coach.
I did actually bring that up, and what the overwhelming response was to bring it up at the workshop and say, the PCA text to sign in is going to send you, this is also going to enroll you in some great resources that will be emailed to you, once a week. And they're fantastic resources that can help you. They're current issues, they're tips of coaching and things like that. If at any time you wish to unsubscribe, that's very easy to do.
Okay.
But that's that's sort of how it was brought up and how you can approach it. Because
Owen, that's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could jump in.
Sure.
Owen, I think it's a good question, a good concern. I position it as an invitation. I want to invite you to sign in for tonight's workshop, and here's how you do it, blah, 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 blah. And the reason I hope you will indeed sign in is because I want you to learn even more about positive coaching and have access to resources on an ongoing basis. We're a movement, and to have a successful movement, we need folks like you to be a part of this. And lastly, you know, this is how we measure our impact. We have a database that keeps track of people who've gone to our training and numbers and, you know, donors and sponsors. They want to know, are we having an impact? And so this also is a way we measure our impact. If it happens to be a coach's workshop, Owen, you can also say, you know, again, no, you don't have to sign in, but if you do sign in, you do go into a searchable database. So if anyone wants to confirm that you are PCA trained, they can go to our website, they plug in your name, and it pops up. You know, South New York Little League, Double Goal Coach 1 workshop, such and such a date. So that's my invitation to you, is to get signed in. Yeah, and also, you know, I think that if the trainer conveys overtly or even subtly, you know, queasiness about the signing in, I think they pick up on it, you know. And so,
I agree. Listen, it's like when you receive a military order, you have to deliver it like it's yours. So I will own it. Believe me, I will own it. I just question the positioning at the outset. You've got you've set up a miniature administrative wall with some flags in this day and age over spam and other folks accessing your data right out of the gate. And I can just tell you from coaches, especially community coaches, who are going, and by the way, like PCA teaches our lacrosse league. It's over 50 coaches here, and it ran to great reviews, I guess, when they did it this spring. And 3 of the moms mentioned it immediately.
Yeah.
So,
you know, and we got to keep thinking about it. One of the reasons we do it right off the bat is we know how workshops are time crunched.
Yeah.
And for so many of us trainers, at the end, it's a race to the finish, and it's very easy to forget or just not leave time for people to sign in if you wait till the end. So we'll keep considering it, Owen, and right now our strategy is to get it done right off the bat, come back to it at the end of the workshop if the trainer has time, and remember to pick up others who maybe were hesitant at the start, but now at the end of the workshop, okay, yeah, you know what, I do want to actually sign in. So hey, I'm noticing time, Kelly, 5:04. Yep. We need to get moving to Alonzo, right?
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
So, Owen and Chad, thank you very much. If you'd like to stay and listen to Alonzo present in Spanish, you're welcome to stay. And I did get an email from Raul. He's not going to be able to join us tonight, but he said, problem. Good luck, Alonzo, and have a blast.
Hi, Kelly. Hi, Ruben.
Hello.
Hi, Alonzo.
How are you?
Good. It's great to be here with you,
Kelly,
Alonzo.
first, Kelly, I want to thank you for the chance to take the course. I really enjoy it. Every time I read something about positive coaching, I want to get more involved, and you help me. You really help me.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed having you. It's been really neat to have you in this course, and I love to hear your examples because it's a different place. I mean, Mexico's a different place than America, so it's good to hear the different cultures and how the issues are very similar, if not more intense. So I've really enjoyed. I've learned a lot from you too. Thank you.
Well, let's switch to Spanish.
Yes. I'm gonna brush up my 5 years of Spanish that I had in high school and college. So we'll see how we do. But Ruben, you can field the questions probably if I'm not catching on.
Está bien.
I understand.
Continuamos en español ahora.
Ok. Hola, Rubén. Bueno, pues primero que nada quiero agradecerles a los dos por estar este día en la presentación en el taller de Positive Coaching. Yo sé que ahorita es tiempo que podrían estar con sus familias o descansando y realmente les agradezco por estar tomando esto, pero yo estoy seguro de que va a haber alguien que se los va a agradecer más y van a ser sus atletas. Los atletas que ustedes entrenan seguramente van a estar contentos de tener a un entrenador con mucho más interés por ellos. Entonces, muchas gracias por venir y espero que les sirva mucho la información que les voy a dar. Primero que nada me voy a presentar. Yo soy Alonzo Ortega, soy un entrenador de fútbol mexicano. He tenido oportunidad de trabajar en Estados Unidos, en España y en México. Y siempre quise ser un entrenador de fútbol para niños. En nuestro país, México, los entrenadores siempre buscan ser entrenadores profesionales, trabajar con adultos, estar en la televisión y ser estrellas. Yo nunca quise eso. Yo cuando dejé de ser jugador, me propuse ser un entrenador para niños. ¿Por qué esto? Porque quería darle a los niños lo que no me dieron a mí. En alguna ocasión, un entrenador que tuve me invitó a unas competencias contra él y le gané. Fui mejor que el entrenador. Estaba muy contento. Yo esperaba que mi entrenador estuviera así de contento. Pero cuando volteo a ver la cara de mi entrenador, él estaba enojado, estaba muy molesto porque el jugador le había ganado. Y el resultado de eso fue que el Alonzo Ortega de 14 años no volvió a jugar más en ese equipo. Todo el tiempo pasó la temporada en la banca del equipo. Fue un poco triste, pero supe reponerme. Y fue el principal motivo por el que yo quise convertirme en un entrenador de fútbol infantil. Después entré a estudiar para ser un entrenador de fútbol y quise hacerlo de una manera diferente. Me di cuenta que el deporte nos da una oportunidad de dar cosas más allá de solo la parte física, de solo ganar. Quería que mis niños aprendieran otras cosas. Y en el camino me encontré con un lugar muy bonito llamado IDESport, donde me introdujeron al Positive Coaching y dije, wow, eso es lo que yo quiero ser, ese es el entrenador que yo quiero ser. Así es como vamos a empezar la presentación. Les pido por favor que imaginemos que ya pasamos el tema de el Tree of Mastery y el E-Tank y vamos a la slide 24, por favor. Kelly, please go to the 24th slide, please. ¿Conocen algo de esta imagen ustedes? ¿Qué, Rubén?
Sí, sí.
¿Qué me podrías decir?
That's the time where the girl hit it over the fence, but she got hurt going around the bases. And entonces sus compañeros de equipo, no, el otro equipo le ayudó a completar el home run.
Así es. Kelly, what you can tell me about this picture?
I just think it's something that not a lot of athletes would choose to do. It was a surprise.
Yeah. Well, la primera vez que yo vi esa imagen quedé sorprendido. Dije, esto no puede pasar en el soccer. El soccer no es así. Nunca había visto que algo así pasara y me dio tristeza porque es el deporte al que yo me dedico. No me imagino a un jugador haciendo esto. Y fue cuando dije, voy a tratar de que mis atletas sean esas personas que yo estoy viendo en la foto, ¿no? Yo no conocía las circunstancias, ahora sé que incluso pudieron haber elegido una corredora que completara las bases sin tener que cargarla, pero yo hubiera querido ser el coach de Mallory, porque le dejó una enseñanza más allá del deporte. Eso es lo que tratamos de transmitir a través de el honor al juego. ¿A quién Rubén, a ti alguno de tus entrenadores te habló de ser un buen deportista?
Yes, sí. They wanted me to have good sportsmanship, my coaches.
Ya. Y, eh,
¿Entendí bien la pregunta, Alonso?
sí.
Okay.
Para hacer, los entrenadores muchas veces nos dicen, vamos a hacer un good sportsmanship, pero no es suficiente. Debemos de honrar al juego. ¿Y cómo honramos al juego? Vamos a pasar a la slide 26, por favor. La slide 26 nos habla del honor al juego y de Roots. Roots para mí es el resumen de lo que debe de ser el honor al juego. Pasemos a la slide 27. ¿Qué creen ustedes que significa la R en Roots? Ruben, what do you think is the letter R in Roots?
Reglas.
Reglas, exactamente. ¿Por qué creen que son importantes? Kelly, why do you think rules are important in sports?
For safety.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody's safe.
Yeah.
And fair.
Fair. I think that's the most important thing. Hace justo el juego. Las reglas son tan solo la guía de cómo debemos de jugar. Si no existieran las reglas, no existirían los deportes. En el soccer, por ejemplo, es muy fácil poder romper las reglas. Pero nosotros como entrenadores debemos de evitar que nuestros jugadores actúen de esa manera. Es muy fácil tratar de meter un gol con la mano o golpear a un compañero. Eso no tiene validez. No nos hace que honremos al juego. Yo les pido a ustedes como entrenadores que se comprometan a honrar el juego y sean el ejemplo a seguir de sus jugadores. Vamos a pasar a la segunda letra, la opponents. ¿Por qué creen que es importante respetar a los oponentes en el deporte? Rubén, ¿me puedes ayudar?
Yes, it's important. I think it's important because, they're a lot like us. They love soccer. They want to compete. Yeah. They want to improve. They have goals and dreams. And just because they're just like us, they want to win. So I think they deserve our respect.
Yeah. So, yo creo que son muy importantes los oponentes porque hacen que nosotros demos lo mejor de sí, que nos esforcemos lo mejor posible, que queramos ganar con todo. Y quiero que cuando salgamos a jugar, busquemos ganar muy fuerte, pero no porque no queramos al oponente, sino porque el oponente nos hace más fuerte, porque demos lo mejor de nosotros, ¿sí? Es por eso que es muy importante que respetemos a los oponentes. Vamos a seguir con la T. La T, los compañeros de nuestro equipo, nuestra camiseta. Creemos que queremos mucho, pero a veces no respetamos a nuestro equipo. Kelly, I'm sorry. No. Do you think that it's important to respect our teammates?
Sí, mucho importante.
And why you think that?
Porque they're mis amigos.
Ya,
Y mis compadres.
En un equipo es muy importante nuestros compañeros. Es con quien nos vamos a divertir. Es con quien entrenamos todos los días, con quien compartimos objetivos. Tal vez en otro momento nosotros cambiemos a otro equipo y juguemos contra nuestros excompañeros. Pero quiero que los recordemos y siempre respetemos al rival. El compañero de equipo nos enseña a trabajar junto con otras personas. Y esto es muy importante que se lo inculquemos a nuestros jugadores, a nuestros atletas. en la vida, cuando dejen de practicar un deporte y estén trabajando, ellos van a tener que hacerlo en equipo. Y una persona que sepa trabajar en equipo es más productiva que alguien que no lo sabe hacer. Por favor, les pido que les transmitan a sus jugadores el respeto a sus compañeros. El llegar temprano es una parte importante. El dar todo de sí en el entrenamiento es muy importante para respetar a los compañeros. ¿Qué otra cosa, Rubén, podría ser un ejemplo de cómo respetar a nuestros compañeros?
I would say helping them get through any failure or mistakes that they make. You know, being supportive of them when they struggle.
Eso es muy importante.
Cheering for them.
Siempre apoyarlos, darles un refuerzo positivo, no criticarlos. Somos compañeros y todos nos equivocamos. A veces es muy fácil es muy fácil que cuando un compañero se equivoca, todos lo molestamos, lo molestamos, y en lugar de apoyarlo y decirle que hace bien las cosas. Me salté oficiales porque como lo manejamos nosotros es Marco, pero me confundo un poco entre Roots y Marco, pero vamos con los oficiales. En el soccer es la parte
Kelly, did you
más...
understand that?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yes. Oh. Vamos con los oficiales o los árbitros, como comúnmente les decimos en el español. Es la parte más importante y la que más trabajo nos cuesta de respetar en el deporte. El oficial solo está ahí para hacer más seguro y justo el juego. Kelly, have you ever seen a Latin American soccer game?
Yes.
Yes. What happened when an official made a mistake?
Oh, malo. Muy malo.
It's awful. Yeah.
Yelling, screaming.
Yeah, sí, todos los jugadores van a... Todos los jugadores van a reclamarle. Los árbitros se equivocan y su trabajo es muy difícil. Tenemos que aprender a respetarlos. Si ellos no estuvieran, el juego sería totalmente injusto, ¿no? Ellos no son perfectos, nosotros nos equivocamos. Tenemos que aprender a respetarlos, y yo les prometo, y espero que ustedes le prometan también a sus jugadores, que cuando estén en un partido van a respetar a los oficiales o a los árbitros. Y vamos con la última letra. La S. S stand for self. Hablamos ya de 4 personajes externos, vamos a hablar de nosotros mismos. Hay que aprender a respetarnos, hay que ser buenos jugadores, buenas personas, hay que entrenar fuerte, y no importa la situación, pase lo que pase, siempre debemos de respetar las reglas. Y creo que ahí se cierra un círculo. Cerrando las reglas, respetando las reglas, aprendemos a respetar el juego y así creamos una cultura. La cultura es algo muy importante y que en el fútbol, en el soccer, se ha olvidado. La cultura es la manera de cómo hacemos nosotros las cosas. Y la manera que nosotros hacemos las cosas es respetando las reglas, a los oponentes, a los oficiales, a nuestro equipo y a nosotros mismos. Hacer cultura es lo que necesitamos en el soccer. Perdonen que dé tantos ejemplos de soccer, pero es la pasión de mi vida. Vamos a continuar cerrando ya la presentación. ¿Saben por qué es para mí tan importante el honor al juego? Creo que conecta los 3 principios del positive coaching. Cuando nosotros respetamos a los árbitros, y no los vamos a insultar o vamos a reclamarles, somos más competitivos, lo que nos hace estar más cerca de ganar. Pero también aprendemos a respetar las imágenes de autoridad, las reglas. Y yo sé que si un jugador respeta al árbitro, cuando sea una persona grande, un adulto, va a respetar a un policía, va a respetar a las otras personas, y eso es algo que nos hace mucha falta. La situación en nuestro país es realmente difícil y el deporte nos da una oportunidad de cambiar un poquito de la realidad que existe en México. Si nosotros aprendemos a respetar y creamos una cultura de honor al juego, vamos a mejorar también nuestro entorno que tanta falta nos hace. Les agradezco mucho que me hayan permitido darles esta información. Estoy seguro que para sus jugadores va a ser mucho más valiosa. Esto no se queda aquí, hay que transmitirlo en la cancha y hay que comprometerse, hay que vivirlo, hay que crear esa cultura. Gracias a todos por su atención. Espero que antes de irse a sus casas puedan llenar la evaluación de el taller para saber qué podemos mejorar, y eso es todo. Gracias, Kelly. Gracias, Rubén.
Bueno.
What do you think, Kelly?
I understood. Yo comprendo about half, 50% of what you said. But, pero, your energy, your smile, your animation, your passion made me understand what you were talking about. And I think you are a very, very interesting presenter. You are happy and you're serious and you know what you're talking about. And you know, I heard and I understood from your body language, and I was picking up more than I thought I remember about Spanish. I was picking up a lot of it. I think you were very clear, and it came through. And I was very glad that you asked questions each time. You didn't just talk. You asked a question of Ruben, and then you asked a question of me. And I think that was very good to get our answer first, and then explain. That was good to see where your audience is. I thought you did very, very well at that. And you asked, you know, what happens if you don't respect the official, or if you don't respect your teammate? What happens? What's good? What's bad? Mm-hmm. I think that was a great way to use the audience, and I thought you did that very, very well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Really. Ruben?
Yeah, Alonzo, I thought it was fantastic. You know, Kelly knows that I don't say this very often, but that's one of the best performances I've seen at the end of one of Kelly's courses. One of the best. I thought it was very complete. I thought it flowed very well. I thought you covered the key points in an interesting, engaging way. I was very impressed. I thought your opening was fabulous. You pulled us right in with why this is important, and why it's important to us, and why it's so important to you. You know, talking about that. You know, your kids are going to be the benefactors mm-hmm. of you all being positive coaches. You wanting to give kids. You wanted to give kids what your coaches never gave you. You know, your story about getting benched just because you beat your coach. And then I loved, you know, the wow, that's the kind of coach I want to be. When you first learned about PCA, I just thought the opening it was very rich. And then honoring the game as a principle, outstanding pacing. You know what I mean by pacing? Alonzo?
No.
Pacing is
kept it moving on.
You kept it moving.
Mm-hmm.
Not too fast, not too slow. Pacing quiere decir no demasiado rápido y no demasiado lento. Perfecto. Kept it moving at a good pace. I liked your transition from roots to culture. Very smooth transition. And you even did a workshop closing for us. And again, powerful how you talked about how positive coaching and the experience that kids have in sports can actually change Mexico. Change the reality that, the challenge of the current reality we face in Mexico, and how positive coaching and experience kids has in sports is one way we can make things better. I thought it was very impactful. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, Alonzo.
Yes, very nice job.
Thank both of you. Well,
Kelly, I want to make a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kelly knows I don't always make this recommendation, but I think my recommendation is that we certify Alonzo in double goal coach 1 now.
Yeah, I agree.
If he has opportunities to practice further or to co-present with Raul, whatever it may be, that's all fine. But I think we should consider him certified in double goal coach 1.
Mm-hmm.
And if Raul, if anybody needs him to and wants him to go out and do double goal coach 1, he will have the certification
to
do it.
Mm-hmm.
You good with that, Kelly?
I'm excellent with that. Yeah, I'm excited. I think you were very quiet on the Google Hangouts, so it was good to see you come alive.
Oh, it's hard for me to express myself in English. I understand almost everything, but I don't speak as well as I want.
I feel the same way. I understood you more than I could speak to you. I could understand what you were saying, but I can't speak it very well.
Well, I hope in future that we can speak in English.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah.
Or maybe in the future you speak to us in English and we speak to you in Spanish.
There you go.
So Kelly, however you want to do it, why don't you communicate to Sonia that Alonzo is double goal coach 1 certified, and then we'll want to CC Raul on that communication, because I know he'll be very happy and proud of Alonzo.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for your hard work.
Thank you, Kelly, and I'm glad to take the course with you. I really enjoy it.
Fantastic. Well, it was good getting to know you, and Ruben and I are here. If you have questions or want to move any further along, just let us know.
Thank you. Gracias, Rubén.
De nada.
Adiós. Nos vemos. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Adiós.